All right, I'm going to just sort out these hands. I feel like you've already given half of my pitch, so apologies for the repetition, but tēnā koutou katoa, ko Phoebe tōku ingoa no Ngāmotu ahau, ko Taranaki te maunga, ko Huatoki te awa, no Ingarani no Kōtirana, hoki o ko tipina, he kaiwhakarata moni ahau ki Blackbird, ki Tamaki Makoto. Hi everyone, I'm Phoebe, I'm a venture investor at Blackbird. I'm going to make it click. That's my mountain. It's my new logo as of about 3 months ago. So what is Blackbird? What does a venture capital fund do? Well, venture capitalists typically invest money in startups and hope to make lots of money. What you may not know is that that money they're investing is often your KiwiSaver fund. So you have a vested interest in what we're doing, whether or not you knew it. Blackbird in particular, I think, is special in a few different ways. So yes, we invest money in startups, but we have a particular way of looking at that job, which is, I think, unique. So there are 3 elements to Blackbird's mahi. We invest in wild hearts with the wildest of ideas at the very beginning. So wild hearts are founders who are doing their life's work. The wildest of ideas ranges from everything, for example, Tim Kentley-Clay 10 years ago decided that he wanted to build a full-stack autonomous robo-taxi as a service. Blackbird backed Tim to build Zoox, which was acquired by Amazon last year. Here in New Zealand, Ollie and Will at Mint are turning computer chips into gold. Another one, which you may know, Canva, is a Blackbird portfolio company. Mel and Cliff have created the future of publishing. So big ideas are our bag. And finally, really importantly, right at the very beginning, so no founder, no idea is too early for us. We love to invest on day 1 and still be investing on day 10,000. And I think just reflecting on what we've heard tonight, Nat, Jaden, Dill, Layla, everything has been, I think, almost like, although I'm going to bring a slightly different lens to it coming from an investment perspective, a lot of what you've said has really resonated with what I hope we bring as investors to the New Zealand market. There are just 2 of us here, so I'm not surprised that you haven't heard of Blackbird, but hopefully you leave tonight kind of knowing a little bit more about, from my perspective, what the best founders have in common. So one of the best things about being an early stage investor is I get to meet hundreds and hundreds of founders every year, and unfortunately only get to invest in maybe 4 or 5 of them per year. And so I sort of think about the job of an early stage investor as more art than science and more psychology than physics. It's really about understanding individuals, how they tick, why they're doing their life's work, if they are doing their life's work, and that's a really fascinating exercise. So generally, I care less about your competitive landscape or the total addressable market and you having calculated that to the nth percentile. This is really about you, why you're doing your life's work and how you're going about it. Okay, so this is meant to be inspiring and not threatening or overwhelming. Not everyone kind of exhibits all of these traits, but sometimes people do, and it is total magic. So the first thing I keep harping on about it is founders who are doing their life's work. And this really means people, like, how do you know that someone is going to keep going when times get tough? As you know, we've heard from Jaden, there will be many, many difficult times as well as good ones. And there are a couple of clues that can tell you whether someone's doing their life's work. One of them is, does this person have some unfair secret that has led them to solve this problem in this way? And so an example would be Mel and Cliff at Canva. They actually printed yearbooks as 20-year-olds, and they realised how terrible it was using, like, Microsoft Paint or having to send stuff down to your local print shop. And they said, you know what, we're gonna solve that. We're gonna do away with all of those software platforms, and we're gonna build something that everyone can use. And now they've got millions and millions and millions of monthly active users using Canva. Luke at Safety Culture was a safety workplace safety inspector, and he saw the terrible results that could happen if workplace safety wasn't observed. And so he said, you know what, rather than inspecting one work site at a time, I'm going to build a really awesome checklist software so that people comply with safety things and we avoid accidents. The other thing, the other kind of indication you can get of someone doing their life's work is whether they would kind of be working on the problem no matter whether they were taking investment or not. So Adam at Gilmore Space, he grew up building rockets and exploding them on the beaches of Queensland. Even when he was a trader in Singapore, he built rockets in his backyard. And when he went to found Gilmore Space, he spent $3 million of his own money to build a prototype. So like whether Blackbird invested in him or not, he was going to be building rockets. The best founders are customer obsessed. So it's easy to kind of think, oh, this problem is so clear, I have such a great solution to it, build something beautiful and put it out into the world and expect people to come and buy it. But the best founders start with deeply understanding their customers. And that may sound simple, but it also may not be clear, like what does that really mean in practice? So the best founders absolutely love hearing from customers. They love speaking to customers. It gives them energy, it gives them direction. And they're not afraid to kind of evolve their product depending on what customers tell them to do. Although I have heard that, and I think it is true, that customers often know what their problems are and have really terrible ideas about what the solution should be. So probably don't listen too much to how they think you should solve their problem, just that they've got them. And so, okay, like in practice, this can look like Tim at Eucalyptus. They're a consumer health services company in Australia. Every product review, every Google review that comes through about their product is piped into a Slack channel that everyone in the company reads, including the CEO, and acts on the feedback. It extends to things like Levi at Partly sleeping in the supply cupboard of one of his customers over a number of days in order to onboard all of their auto parts for their auto parts data business, if you don't know Partly. Luke at XY Sense, installing personally all of the IoT sensors that he'd developed for the National Broadband Network in Australia. These kind of links of customer obsession, getting in the weeds with customers, really set founders up for success. Great founders have a big technicolor vision. Layla, your puzzle, this is like, what does the picture look like at the end? They tell stories like Walt Disney. They tell you what the future will be and why they're going to deliver it, and then they kind of link that back to why customers will care about that and why that all makes sense. And I think Zoox is just the best example here. Like, imagine turning up and someone's like, in 10 years' time, I'm going to have built a full stack autonomous robo-taxi as a service. You're like, sure, all right. I love that Blackbird was willing to back his vision. I think most investors wouldn't have. But importantly, it's the technicolor vision taken back to square one, the corner pieces or the straight edge of the puzzle. What do you do today that allows you to then deliver that big vision? How does Act 1 of your product, it could be something quite simple that you can start selling, start getting customer feedback. How does that translate to Act 2, Act 3, Act 4, Act 5, and that's the kind of final picture. The best founders are honeypots for talent, so they magnetize other awesome people to them. They know what their own gaps are and they fill them with other people. They, by implication, care about mission and culture from day one. This is not a nice to have. I think Lauren at Multitudes, where Emily works, is such a great example of this, of setting from absolutely day one objective, strategy, reason for being around a diverse workplace. Great founders are also learn-it-alls, not know-it-alls. They are hungry for knowledge, not necessarily to be right. Everything that you do when you're founding a new company is new. Should I raise money? How do I have a board meeting? How do I write an employment contract? And great founders are kind of sponges for knowledge and willing to be wrong, constantly looking to be wrong and are perpetually curious. Finally, I think it's like Jaden's story is such a good example. founders have to be hungry and resilient because it's just a really, really hard thing that they're embarking on. And so it's a truism, but the best founders do the hard things, not the easy things, every day. And it's a real privilege to work with them. So, great founders are doing their life's work. They are customer obsessed. They have a technicolor vision of the future grounded in a clear plan, step one, today. They're a honeypot for talent. They're people you and I would love to work for. They're learn-it-alls, not know-it-alls. They're hungry and resilient. I've definitely gone over my time. Ka kite.